So Ian, thank you for joining me today. We got to talk about Gonzaga. As you know, as most of us basketball fans know, they've been so close these last few seasons, but I feel that this season is their best chance to finally win it all. You look at the roster, you have some future NBA prospects in that roster, and Gonzaga, this team is legit. I feel like by every year they get better. So what do you think their chances are of winning the NCAA title this year?
I think they're just about as good as ever this year. When you look at last year's team, contrasting this year's team with last year's team, last year had more of the star power. You had Jalen Suggs, you had Drew Timmy, and they had that miracle season running all the way to the championship, undefeated. This year, they don't have that. They have a couple blemishes on their resume, but I think that that's only going to help them. Last year, COVID took so much out of every team. Put on top of that, trying to become the first undefeated team in several decades, that added pressure alone took so much out of the Zags that by the time they finally got to the Final Four and all the headlines whispering, can they finally do that? Can they finally get over the hump? Not only to win the program's first championship, but also to be the first undefeated champion since Indiana in 1976. You add so much pressure to that team, and you saw it finally wore on them. Then they were in that battle against UCLA in the semifinal that came down to Jalen Suggs' miraculous shot. They were so spent by the time they got to play Baylor for the championship that when Baylor put pressure on them, there was no coming back. They were just completely out of gas. When you hear Mark Few talk this year as they win the WCC, he's talking about, this is an accomplishment just to win the WCC. Yes, we have those blemishes. We had that loss to a very, very, very good St. Mary's team, but that's only going to help them. It helps them refocus as they turn their attention to the postseason. They came back, beat St. Mary's in the conference championship game, and now they're going to enter March Madness as the number one overall seed once again. But this year, they're solely playing to win a national championship. There's no ancillary headline of can this team be the first undefeated champion since Indiana? As soon as you take that pressure off, it's just basketball now for these players. And you throw in the twin towers of Timmy and now freshman sensation Chet Holmgren. That is a dangerous combination if you're a Gonzaga fan.
Yes, yes, yes. And speaking of Holgram and Timmy, they were named second team All-American by Sporting News. And Timmy, this is his second, he receives his second straight second team All-American honors. So you see what both of them bring to the table. Yes, they don't have Jalen Suggs anymore, and he'll forever be remembered in Gonzaga history for that game-winning shot last season. But when you have these two guys along with other counterparts, this team is really good. Do you feel, and I can't forget to mention this, they have their head coach that is their first season with them. So he has a chance to be the Steve Kerr for his Gonzaga team because, before Steve Kerr, there was Mark Jackson who really took that team to a certain level. But Steve Kerr inserting Draymond Green to the starting lineup really helped the Warriors get to that ultra championship level accomplishment. So, but do you feel that is there any team that could possibly get in their way of winning it this year?
I think that this year's field is so wide open. I think it's the most wide open that it has been in a long time. You have about 10 teams that I think have a legitimate chance to win the national championship. And contrast that with the last year where it was Gonzaga and Baylor the entire season and then the rest of the field. There was a clear-cut top two and a gigantic drop-off after that. The entire year it was a collision course of Gonzaga and Baylor. The only question was, will they both be undefeated when they meet up in the championship game on the first Monday of April? Gonzaga was undefeated. Baylor got tripped up there late in the season and didn't get to the title game undefeated. But again, I think that helped them to refocus. This year, there are so many good teams. There is no one dominant team. Gonzaga has been in the at the top all year long, but they've had a few hiccups. You have Baylor once again. You have Kansas. You have Kentucky. You have Auburn. You have Providence. You have Villanova. You have so many good teams. UCLA, Arizona. So I think it's going to be very exciting this year. I think that we could either see all one and two seeds in the Final Four, or we could have a crazy year with like 2 5 seeds, an 8 seed, and an 11 seed, like we saw a couple years ago. So I think this year's tournament is going to be the most unpredictable of any that we've seen this year. And I really think that it could go either way. And that's what makes March Madness so much fun. So while I think that Gonzaga stands as good a chance as anyone to get to the Final Four, it wouldn't surprise me if they cut down the nets. It wouldn't surprise me if they lose in the Sweet 16.
And that's what makes March Madness better than the NBA playoffs, because in the NBA, even before the season starts, we could tell more or less who's going to make it to the finals or even win at all, because it's such a predictable sport. But what makes March Madness so essential is that there's no playoff series. It's just one game. That's it. Either you win, you go to the next round, you lose, let's say your season is over. It's more like the NFL in that regard. That's why the NFL, to a certain degree, is unpredictable, even though for the last few seasons it's been a little different. This year, however, I was impressed by the postseason. You have the Cincinnati Bengals, going all the way to the Super Bowl. No one expected a second-year quarterback in Joe Burrow to take the team to the Super Bowl. But March Madness, that's what we love about it. On any given day, a great team can be beaten, whether it's Sweet 16, Elite Eight, or Final Four. So it could be anyone. It could be anyone this year. If I had to pick one team to knock off Gonzaga, even though I really do want Gonzaga to win because I feel that is imperative, and they've suffered enough heartbreaks in these last 4 years. But if there's one team that I would have to say that have a shot, probably UCLA. Probably UCLA. But again, it's March Madness. Anything can happen. But to go a little bit off topic, how is Arizona State treating you?
It is a lot of fun. It was so much fun to cover the Sun Devils for basketball season this year. The unfortunately, both the men's and the women's teams were up and down this season, and both bowed out already in the Pac-12 tournament. So no postseason for either Sun Devil hoops team, but it's definitely a lot of fun to have a front row seat to a Pac-12 team.
How was it like to cover that game against GCU?
It was wild. GCU, now, of course, Arizona State and GCU separated by about 15 miles. GCU in North Phoenix and Arizona State in Tempe. But it is it's quite a rivalry, and especially when you think about it, that here's Arizona State, who's Power Five in the Pac-12, and GCU, relatively new to Division One, playing in the WAC, and yet GCU has had a lot more success recently. When you look at the fact that they won the WAC last year, they were in the NCAA tournament. Arizona State has struggled the last couple of years, and so it's an interesting dynamic that here you have ASU that should be the better team. They play in the same conference as UCLA, as Arizona, but yet GCU is the one who has boasted more success in the last couple of years.
Well, Ian, thank you for taking the time to give your thoughts on Gonzaga. Best of luck to you in Arizona State. I know that you're studying sports journalism over there for your master's, so keep on grinding. How many more semesters do you have left over there?
So I'm in the middle of my second to last semester, so I will finish up in August.
All right, God willing. But best of luck to you, man, and keep enjoying March Madness, as I will the same. as I see that, oh wow, Providence won 65-61.
Wow.
Wow, wow,
Don't count
unbelievable.
out Ed Cooley.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want to count them out. For a moment, I thought Butler was gonna escape with a victory, but Providence, they have the record there for a reason.
Mhm.
So yeah, there you have it, 65-61. But Ian, once again, thank you so much. And we'll keep in touch for future topics of March Madness or any others. But I think we're gonna stick with March Madness because, like you said, is wide open and we don't know what's gonna happen next.
It's the absolute best time of the year. No question about it.